For some people, the best part of the console lifecycle is the excitement of a new console fresh off the presses. However, while some are looking forward, there's another crowd of people looking back, sweeping up the last gen's hardware and software at all-time low prices. But that's not all they're getting. The end of a console's lifespan has been known to be a magical time when graphics are taken to their limits, strange installments become abound in our most beloved series, and some of a console's most iconic titles burst from the rubble of a falling console to become classics. So why would it seem like all of these great games come out at the end of a console's lifetime? To understand these last-minute releases, it's important to understand the console cycle. The console's life cycle can be split up into three important sequences, the first being the launch period, in which the console's library is sparse but developing. Usually only a few pre-planned first-party titles, and titles moved from last-gen hardware, are selling big. A lot of developers are getting their hands dirty by expanding their multi-platform titles to these new consoles. Then comes the regular release period. There's usually some breakthrough title that shows to gamers and critics alike an understanding of the console's possibilities, a game that people usually call truly next-gen. This period is characterized by most first-party and big third-party developers being concerned with keeping the console's momentum. After all, at this stage in the console cycle, all of the consoles have been released, and developers don't want disappointed gamers realizing that there are other fish in the sea. Usually within a year and a half of the release of the next console, the pillars start to fall. All of the console's huge peripherals, expansions, and re-releases have already been made. The developers have accepted that people are moving on to newer consoles, and the focus becomes pushing a few more units before production stops. Most developers have already made at least one game for the console, so they already have the experience and assets needed to make not only another title, but to push the hardware's limits and take more graphical and gameplay risks. Also, the end of a console's life cycle is the Wild West when it comes to video game journalism. Oftentimes, all of the big sources are too consumed with the upcoming release of the new console to break their attention and cut on some last-minute release for an ever-shrinking audience. Not to mention that their expectations are totally different for games at this point in the console cycle. Critics may praise a bold graphical effect at the end of a console's lifetime, while they may have earlier bashed the same title for being too ahead of the curve. One last thing to note is that this library is sometimes slightly larger than what we see. Usually around this grace period, there are also a few Japanese titles of the same variety released. Unfortunately, the cost of translation and marketing seems much too daunting for a dying console, so they're usually not made playable in Western regions until fans translate them or other logical solutions present themselves. The advent of digital downloads has allowed for the translation of titles like Sin and Punishment on the Virtual Console. Who knows what the future will hold for the console lifecycle? We've had the pleasure of experiencing it about 7 times, and it would seem they're only getting longer and longer thanks to better technology. It will be interesting to see how this teardown period develops and changes through time. I'd love to chronicle how it's already changed, especially with the advent of the internet, but that's a subject for another video. For now, here's a list of games I feel like meet the qualifications of being a last-minute release. Do you have a game that didn't make the cut? Leave a comment with your favorite last-minute release, and I'll add it to the list featured at the end of the video. While you're at it, why not like and subscribe, or check out one of my other videos?